Yeah, the
So much
Delaware
for
Bay
that inquiry.
and the Atlantic Ocean.
But
So
it's a gorgeous
matter which
city. I
one.
live in.
And we can bring work on the minutes.
Yeah, we are gonna open up our meeting.
Should you give him a call and see whether he?
I think Matt texted him. Or was gonna text
I
him.
did text him. I can call him as well. If he doesn't respond in the next minute or
He
two.
could be,
Steve, I just got a text from Suzanne saying that the Zoom feed failed.
no, it's, people are on and she's on.
Okay.
Yeah,
this is-
yeah.
I just got
Yeah,
the text.
yeah.
I'm just letting you know.
Thank you.
I have a couple of comments. One, there's no mention of David speaking, and I think it'd be nice if there were something in there that the building inspector was confirmed some of the timeline.
Okay,
Secondly, on the second page,
around the place where the builder is,
yeah,
talking?
I think it should be in there, that maybe he confirmed the timeline or something like that, or,
okay. Yeah.
and then on the first paragraph on the second page.
Yeah.
It says with an identically sized building. And
Footprint,
it really is the exact footprint. not the building itself.
Yeah.
The footprint was the same, and that was a major point they made throughout the whole meeting.
Okay.
Line 16. To support the second floor, substantial reframing would be necessary rather than was. And the same thing in line 27, it's had the building been moved, the application would have been moved, and the project could have been, or could have proceeded rather than it could. I mean, that's just a grammatical thing that AI and I don't agree on.
Okay.
The last thing on line 34.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know, the select board has an office, just the select board.
Yes, yeah, that's fine. That's a common term we use.
Okay, Matt, you've got some details, huh?
I'll get you.
Motion to approve the minutes with Peter's edits.
Second?
All those in favor?
Yeah,
Okay. Good job, done.
did you hear back from,
Michael has not responded to my text. Would you all like me to go see if I can call him? Might as well find out if I can report papers.
you'd have to notify the applicant, is that right?
If there are only gonna be three of us, then the applicant has the choice as to whether or not we proceed with three.
Brad, we know, was away on vacation. We had not heard from like
How many people are on the board?
5.
We're lacking an alternate right now.
Not the first time that's happened to me in July.
Right now, summertime, you know, it's just hard to keep a zoning board, planning board full, it just is.
I know it. In fact, I'm supposed to be at the planning board meeting in my own town, because I'm on it, but.
Here you are.
I had another one for tomorrow that just canceled for the same reason, nobody showed up. Happens.
Nobody showed up?
Well, they also had a 5-person board and only one person was gonna be available, so that wasn't even a choice, they
Sure, well,
can't have it.
can't do anything with that. We got a very formal thing from Bev.
Oh, did you? Good.
You haven't seen
I
that?
mean, I mean, I know there's a form that they're asking people to fill out and
Oh, yeah.
I'm, doing my best to stay out of it.
He's on his way. He'll be here in 3 minutes.
Very good, thank you.
Thought he could escape, but he was wrong. Well, I always felt bad when, it's Emily and somebody voting, Ryan. Right next door was on the planning board. It's hard to take a night off. You can't exactly sit out on the deck. While the lights are on in the conference room. But he left when his kids were, they were younger and really active.
So I had gotten a text.
Like all kids.
So do you have Little League season? Is it over?
Done for the summer.
Then by the time.
Yeah.
We went to a Nighthawks game the other night. We had been prior to, but the crowds have dropped off. Maybe it's the team, maybe it's the early part of the season. When we went 2 or 3 years ago, we parked in a back field and you had to walk, and a couple of food trucks, everything was happening. You could park right practically in the field.
Nobody was there, really?
It was, maybe it was 100, maybe 50, so, it was a small crowd. But the Taylor's house, a fair number of them, Rob, Bill at his house and Steve at his house. It's fun to see, it's good.
Yes, fun to do it.
Right now, we're on pins and needles, the Red Sox are the hottest team in baseball. Got to go back to 500, had a kill. To keep it at 9, and they tend to be notoriously poor starters after the pulse check break, that usually kills whatever momentum. But I think the analyst is worried that the team is so young and so different, that by the next round, the pitchers will know more, and things won't go as well as they've gone, but geez, we've had a nice run, I mean, it's been fun to see
It's
it.
nice to see, it's nice to see some winning,
You
yeah.
know, and, understanding that we're still below 500,
Well,
but we're in the hunt for a playoff spot.
Yeah, I'm back in jinx mode. I missed the entire Yankees series and the first game of Seattle, all of which they won.
Ah,
I watched 2 games of Seattle I
it was in
lost,
stop.
yes.
and so I stopped and they've won since.
But it has been fun to see.
Serious.
Yeah.
Serious.
And. Yeah, wow.
The registration letter for vehicles
Yes,
has a sentence in it about be sure you get your vehicle inspected.
that's interesting. That's a canned letter off the software system, I guess. I'll see if, I don't know if we could probably edit that letter. Inspection letter. We found the guy who read it.
Yeah, apparently I didn't.
Why did you rip it open? You look at the bottom and you say, oh yeah, it's my birthday. I gotta go get my car.
Okay, happy birthday, write a check.
Right,
Yeah.
but no, I'm sure we can make that, because that must be customizable for each town.
I would hope.
Well, it's a crazy expense because, you know, it's your car, you bought it, the rules are the rules. The fact that we have to send you a letter and then you get mad at us if you didn't get it, but you didn't tell me I had to know. Well, it's, you
I was, I
know,
was talking to Joel at the garage, and he said that 90% of his customers are still gonna get inspected anyway, they're gonna come in and get it inspected.
yeah, I think you want to fix that stuff before, if you trust your mechanic, you
Yeah.
want to fix that stuff
Yeah, I mean, you
before.
wanna know about the brakes, you wanna know about
Junk.
lights and stuff you don't check on.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotta check out my exhaust system there, but get an oil change and they'll check everything over. And, you know,
This all gonna be in the minutes?
I don't know, we're recording. We're patiently waiting for a
Yes.
fourth member.
yeah,
Lives close, so literally the door could open any second.
It's open.
There you go. Good evening.
I'm sorry, everyone, this time had gotten away from me. Thank you for the phone call.
We brought you back into the fold.
Thank you for picking up.
Right, we won't dock your pay.
Couple dollars an hour would be okay.
all right, so now we're properly staffed. We can move to the continuation of case. What's the number?
2601.
2601, still the first one. We requested some more investigation and information from the applicant. And we have a packet of information here. I think we'll continue just like we normally do and have the applicant present the material to us, explain a little, and we'll ask questions. And then I think it would be appropriate to reopen the public hearing, just comment on the new information. And so we'll try to keep it on the brief side. Depends, who knows, it might be a lot of stuff to talk about in this, but and then we'll close that and we'll decide if we've got, well, what our status is on all the requirements that we're faced with in this kind of case, so. Floor is yours.
Thank you. So as you mentioned, there were some additional alternatives for us to investigate and evaluate. I did submit a written submission covering some of the details of that, but I can summarize that because it's not terribly complex. For the most part, most of these alternatives were in Lebanon, and they were, sorry, I keep getting it, Patch Hill, is that it, Patch Hill Forest?
Pat Forest.
Patch Forest. And all of those fall within a steep slope district or overlay district in Lebanon, which prohibits construction there. So I recall that the discussion at the last meeting was that the relief is different there, that only a special exception is required, whereas a variance is required here. In fact, a variance would also be required on all of the Lebanon parcels, so that's the first reason that rules them out. The second reason, and we included the steep slope map from the Lebanon GIS, is that those steep slopes, I mean, there's a reason behind that prohibition. It's not just arbitrary, and in fact makes construction very, very difficult. Makes erosion control very difficult and just not good places to build, and that's why they prohibit it. So from that perspective, all of the patch forest properties are pretty much not viable. We had discussed how the portions of the properties that are not steep slopes are actually quite low. This essentially has was almost a cliff sort of off to the east of all of the patch forest properties. That would have been, from the radio frequency perspective, the points that could achieve the coverage. But from the construction and permitting perspective, they get ruled out for non-viability, as I just discussed. There was an additional parcel in Plainfield, also owned by Patch, which had similar steep slopes, and while that's not necessarily prohibited, Plainfield doesn't have the same type of ordinance, the same practical reasons apply, that construction on steep slopes is not advisable. Creates runoff problems, and it's much more expensive and much more difficult. Without any upside, I might add. I don't know that there's much of a benefit to that particular parcel. And then the final one was, let's see, it's the Huckins property, I believe it was, which was on our original list. I'm sorry, I can't remember if it's Huckins or Hudkins, but and I think I had mentioned we hadn't contacted that owner. I wasn't the one doing it, but in fact we did. So that was my mistake. But that site, you know, we've included some pictures there and sort of a mock-up, and you know, our determination there was that would be a less desirable site because it's much more visible than the site that we're currently applying for. The site that we have in front of you now is pretty ideal. It's tucked away. It has access. This one is going to have significantly more visual impact from public areas. It has moderately less coverage than what we're proposing. But really the visual impact is significant compared to the one that we are proposing. So that, I think that covers all of the alternatives that we talked about. Yeah, there were a lot of parcels in there, but they all fell under that patch forest sort of category, which the reasoning was the same on all of them, because the reality is it's the same sort of chunk of land. It was broken up into various random lots. And I think that was basically what we were talking about the last meeting. I don't recall there was anything else. I do recall a little bit of discussion about the tree canopy within 75 feet. And we just looked and confirmed there are no trees within 75 feet of what we're doing. That we didn't exactly measure. There might be 1 or 2 pine trees, but there's no tree canopy. We're going out in the middle of what is an old meadow. So no information to provide there. And I think that's it. If anyone had any additional questions, I think we covered it.
When you said that you did contact the owner of that previous property?
Not me personally, but yeah.
Right,
I did.
Was that just a mailing, and did you get a response, and was the response positive or negative or?
From what he told me, it was a positive response.
So he was interested, but that was a less suitable site.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I apologize for not knowing that at the last meeting. He didn't tell me, I didn't know.
I have a question that I think I brought up either the last meeting or the one before about your customers.
Mhm.
And you hadn't received or didn't have any written agreements with anybody at that point, I think. And you said that, well, they'll come. It's kind of like build it and they'll come. Who are your customers?
No, we have a commitment from Verizon on this one,
Okay,
and generally the others will follow at some point. You know, my client is in the business of building the tower, and they only do it because of the anticipation of customers coming. they're not gonna build it if they don't have
Okay,
customers.
tell me who the customers would be? I'm asking,
AT&T and T-Mobile those are the big three. And then up here, US Cellular is also,
US Cellular is now owned by T-Mobile.
so there's ownership, but it still operates separately. It has different licenses from the FCC. So there's different frequency bands, as you can imagine, like, just like on a radio. And different companies have different licenses for different bands. But I don't think they operate as one. That's not my understanding. But I know that, like I said, the big three are gonna be Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile, and then up here usually.
Well, I'm getting back to the question I've asked on a number of occasions. You've asked for four sites. And I'd like it to be down at least 10 feet. And if there are only three major carriers at this point, then three would be a reasonable number. And then you lower the request by 10 feet.
We can do that. I mean, we can definitely do that. This is always sort of the trade-off is where every town ordinance, including the Plainfield ordinance, encourage the co-location and building a facility that is meant for as many carriers as possible. But if it is the board's preference that it be reduced 10 feet so that it's a 3-carrier tower, we can certainly do that. And if and when we get that 4th carrier, we may choose to come back and ask for a modification.
If you were to agree to lowering it 10 feet, one of the things that I was concerned about that you mentioned at the last meeting was that you said by right, you could increase it by 10 feet over whatever we approved.
It's 10%.
Okay, well, that's 12 feet then, if we got down to 120.
Yeah, I mean, just to be clear, pretty sure it's 10% now. It's either 10 or 20, but yes, your point is valid. We do have a right to extend it.
If we were to have this reduction in height, would you be willing to agree to not ever apply for another 10%?
Well,
And I don't know, Matt, is that legally binding? I don't even know.
I think if it's provided for in the RSA's, I'm not sure that we can exclude as a condition of approval, say that they can't exercise a right that's in the RSA. Is my,
But they might be able to give it up.
That's what I'm asking them to give up that particular option.
I have an idea. In theory, if we needed it for a 4th carrier, I would think the town would probably want us to do that rather than have that 4th carrier come in and say, I need to build a new tower because that tower can't
Well,
be higher.
Again, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm asking the two of you to comment. If you were to give up that right pending town, whatever, approval, that would make people more comfortable than just thinking that you've gotten a lower tower, but you'll just come back and take that extra 10 feet no matter what.
Well, so that's what I'm saying. I don't know the answer to the legal question. I don't know if you can voluntarily waive that. I'm just not sure. But what I could say, because I know from practicality, this is how it would play out, is that we could agree not to seek it until a carrier needed it, because that's the only reason we would want to do it anyway. And that sort of seems like it would be within what the town's interest is as well, too.
Well, that isn't quite as reassuring as I'd like. And I don't know what's legally possible, but then it's in your court again without us really saying anything.
Yeah, I honestly don't know the answer to that. I mean, I would think you could waive it.
Well, you could reduce it by 2, knowing they'd add 1, and that would be the end of it, right?
well, we'd be discussing it again, rather than you're just coming in and saying we have it by right.
Right.
And I'm trying to work out a way that we can minimize the impact and still have the thing happening, knowing that the feds are gonna.
Well, I'll tell you what, let me ask
Potentially
my
troubles.
client, I can text him right now and see if we could agree to it, and then at that point, if we agree, we made an agreement. I mean, if it's unenforceable, I don't know that there's anything I can do to change it, but I'm not gonna be the one in front of you. But
Yeah, sure.
Let me just, I'm sure he'll get right back to me.
I'm sorry, I've hogged the questions. You have. That's what I have.
All right, just that, the answer was probably, I'm gonna say not good enough.
You have the balloon test that we could see on this,
We have the visual analysis, yes.
and so we can show what 10 feet reduction might be.
Yeah, no, definitely have it,
Well, he's saying the same thing I'm saying, that we could definitely do down to 120, but we would want the right to be able to do that 10% extension if we had another carrier. Because I mean, that is.
Well, and that's your preference, but what I'm wondering about whether or not we can make it a little more difficult. And that's, I don't know, Matt, what do you're being very quiet.
I'm scanning the RSA and trying to get my hand around.
Okay.
it. So. Chris, is your argument about the right to increase by 10%, is that in the definition of modification versus substantial modification?
Yeah.
Where a substantial modification is one that involves more than 10% height increase?
Right.
So if you're not doing a substantial modification and you're just doing a plain vanilla modification, that is as of right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I have not read the nitty gritty of this RSA enough to have a good feeling one way or the other about the automatic right to be able to do a modification that's not a substantial modification.
Well,
And
I
what
guess,
can be restricted there.
When you were talking about, getting another carrier. I mean, if we went down 10 feet, there's still 3 slots there, so you're talking about a 4th carrier?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, if we need it for a 4th carrier.
Okay,
US Cellular used to be its own entity, but in the last year or so, they were purchased by or merged with
what,
T-Mobile.
but that's not what. I was.
Well, I don't know about the frequency thing. I know they're under the same umbrella now, the ownership.
I don't know what your point is, what do you,
Well, the point is that there are now only 3 major carriers.
there are more than that.
I mean, there are dozens out there, but the,
I put the word major in there.
It doesn't need to be a major, if they got the money, they can do it.
and see, the thing is, it changes, the landscape does change, you know, spring, gone. They come and go, yes, Verizon and AT&T have been around forever, although AT&T's changed its name several times, but, you know, it's hard to sort of pin the whole tower on what is happening today, because, you know, there's a fair amount of investment involved in doing it, and while, you know, 3 might be good today, the idea is that if it's available and there's a 4th, yes, we want to be able to capture that revenue. And again, the towns also usually push for it, and I think your ordinance does push for it, that
Yes,
you don't want someone coming back here saying, I need to build a tower because that one can't expand.
is it actually limited to cell towers, sending you the data, or could it be, you know, I don't know,
Oh.
a regional, fire and
Uh,
something dispatch.
That's a good question. I mean. You know, in theory, they're building a tower to rent out space on
Right.
it, so I don't think they would. Shy away from anyone who will write the check.
That's what I was figuring.
I have not in my career seen anything else go on them. The municipal emergency services, we let them go on for free, as we would here. They are usually at the top and they're using, like the whip antennas that are, I don't exactly know the technology, but they don't use the space that the carriers use.
Yeah. In general, looking at the RSA's on our own ordinance, we refer to it as a wireless communications facility and not a cell tower.
Sure.
You know, so obviously our ordinance, does not think of them as strictly for personal communications.
Yeah, I honestly have never seen that. The one time I can even think of it coming close is I remember going, like we were taking down a tower that used to be for pagers a long time ago, but I haven't seen any other technology going on towers that we've built. I'm just not sure what's out there that would use it.
Okay. We'll let Matt continue his, perusal. I was trying to search through some of them too, and I'm not finding what I had read before, even though I thought I had the right section.
Well, anyway,
So
while
it's
they're,
a-
while they're doing this, we point this out. This is the representation, right? And so it would be to here rather than up to here. I think. Yeah, but we're down to.
So 12-K 10 Roman numeral 1 says that modification applications shall be reviewed for conformance with applicable building permit requirements, but shall not otherwise be subject to zoning or land use requirements, including design or placement requirements or public hearing review. So I could see that being interpreted as they apply for the building permit as long as they satisfy the building permit requirement, there's no other review. And so that causes doubt in my mind that a preemptive restriction on a
Well, I'm not-
condition of approval now that we're gonna
I'm
grant the
not-
variance and say,
Well,
you
I'm not
promise
saying
not
it
to
would be,
increase.
I'm not saying it would be a restriction that we put on it, I'm saying that they would waive it. They waive that right.
Okay.
And that's, I mean, that would be a good, you know, a good faith effort by the town and by the applicant. They've lowered it 10 feet and it'd be nice to not think that they're just gonna back and put the extra 10 feet on there because it's not a substantial development.
Yeah.
Improvement.
I think we could ask them to waive it and we could hope in good faith that they would not seek to increase it. You know, putting me on the spot and not having thought about this question before, just this quick skim that I've done since you asked the question. If you made me come down one way or the other, I would say it's not waivable. More likely a judge says that's not waivable, then they waived it and that's enforceable. If they come back in 10 years and say, now we've got a fourth, we've got a fourth carrier interested, we want to do a modification to increase it to fit that.
It'd be nice to have them have to come back and do that rather than just have it by right. If they say they're gonna waive it, sure, a judge may say that they've got that right, but they have waived it, and it may be that it's not enforceable, but they'd have to jump through another hoop to be able to do it. And I think that would be something that would be, I mean, I feel pretty strongly about it because I can see some people thinking that, well, they'll lower it 10 feet and then they come back next year and say, we've got a 10 and we put it up another 10 feet just by right. And by waiving it, at least there's the spirit of what we're agreeing to is more better, I think. And that's my feeling. The four of us.
I don't think that, they're gonna wanna build a shorter tower, with the plan of coming back in a year and making it taller. It's not the most efficient way to do tower construction, costs a lot more money. They're not gonna do it that way. No business is gonna be that inefficient in their.
Well, it may or may not, except that that's the way they may get an approval, you know. I think I would vote for we're not voting yet, because we have more things to hear, but I'm leaning towards a restriction to the 120. And I would like to have some kind of reassurance that it's gonna stay that way. And then maybe they come back, maybe they go to court. If we voted down the 130, they'd go to court anyway.
Mhm.
And I feel that it'd be nice for the town for us to have an agreement, and that kind of thing feels as though they're more in the spirit of the agreement and a little bit behind it, whether it holds up and we can decide whether or not at that future date, whether to hold them to it, if they come back and say we want it.
Well, what did we say was that the height of one additional, right?
About 10 feet.
About 10 feet.
Yeah, we call that a rad center, but yeah, it's usually, like, you lease a 10-foot vertical space typically. The one thing I would point out is that when it comes down, here's how I see it playing out in real life. 5, 6, 10 years from now, someone else is doing this, someone new might own the tower, could be the carrier who's coming to you. They will say, I didn't agree to that. They will have the legal challenge. And what happens possibly when the court looks at it, I mean, this is exactly trying to circumvent the law. This is the exact reason this law was passed, to stop what we're talking about tonight. But I get it that, perhaps you can voluntarily waive it and it is enforceable. I just don't know, but I don't think it's a slam dunk one way or the other. I do think it makes sense. We can certainly agree to 120, but I would like the opportunity to extend it only if necessary. We would not do it if there was not a fourth carrier. In fact, we could make it that specific that the extension would only be allowed if and when there is a fourth carrier. Because again, the whole purpose of your bylaw and almost every bylaw is to encourage the use of one tower by everybody. I mean, the backdrop of all of this federal law, and this, by the way, was just a copy of federal law that was basically put in New Hampshire by certain lobbyists in the group. But the whole idea here is to promote competition among the carriers. So you want the American consumer to be able to choose from as many carriers as possible, like any other product. So the idea is to put them on an even playing field. And if they want to provide coverage here, the federal government doesn't want them having to build a new tower. They should all be able to use the same facility. And that's where you get that provision in the Telecommunications Act about discriminating against functionally equivalent service providers. So it's tricky. I get the point, and willing to do that compromise if that's helpful.
I think I kind of,
Do you want some public?
well, yeah, we gotta like settle this a little bit first, unless we're just gonna leave it hanging. I think I agree with Matt that it's unlikely to be enforceable and would really, I think by agreeing to 10-foot shorter tower to begin with, they're already showing their willingness, and because it's a significant step to increase the size of the tower later. It's, you'd only do that if there was a major profit to be made.
That is correct, like it's much more expensive to add 10 feet to a 120-foot tower than it is to install a 130-foot tower.
Oh, I don't, I would, I for one wouldn't have voted for the 130 feet.
Well, we're talking about 120 now.
That's right.
It's,
So,
I think it's fair to say, and again, just an economic indicator of what's happening in the world. I mean, I assume we're 10 minutes away from Elon Musk offering, cell services through low altitude satellites, but I think every carrier, every tower we have in Plainfield right now has fewer carriers on it than it was designed to have. And because they complain about their taxes. Because they pay by how many carriers are on the tower. So I think we are not packed on our towers right now.
okay.
Chris, can I just ask one more thing about the modification
Yeah.
law? And this is confusing because it's from the definition of a substantial modification. You're trying to stay under the level of what is a substantial modification. So substantial modification is as a result of successive modification, a single or successive modification applications. Increases or results in the increase of the permitted vertical height of a tower or the existing vertical height of a mount by either. So there's two ways you can increase it, by either 10% of whatever the existing thing is, and that's what we've been talking about, right? So like a 120-foot tower could go up by 12 feet.
Yep.
It says, or the height of one additional antenna array, which is 10 feet, right?
Yep.
With separation from the nearest existing antenna not to exceed 20 feet, whichever is greater. So is it possible, if I'm reading that right, is that possible that you could have a 10-foot antenna array separated by 20 feet for a total of 30 feet? And that would still get under the wire of not being a substantial modification?
That's a good point. I've never actually used that provision because the theoretical 20-foot separation is not what's used in the industry right now.
Okay.
Quite frankly, it's too much vertical real estate on the tower. So you're talking a 20-foot separation plus 10 feet, that's 30 feet for one carrier. In the current technology that we have, nobody's gonna do that. Nobody's gonna give one carrier 30 feet unless they pay for 30 feet. But that would be triple rent basically, and that's not gonna happen. I don't know what the future holds, but I do think your reading is correct. That it indicates that there could theoretically be an extension by right. That is one more antenna array that is 20 feet away from the top right now. So yeah, 30 feet taller.
And what is the typical recommended separation? Yeah.
It's captured in that 10 feet. Like usually
Okay.
every carrier gets 10 feet and your antennas don't take the whole 10 feet. Most of these antennas are 42 to 52 inches tall. And then so they're separated by the 10-foot space. There's nothing additional to the 10 feet.
I see.
Okay, should we reopen the public hearing and
Mike, have any comment?
I'm comfortable.
and see if we have any input on the new information? I'm gonna try to limit it to that. We've been through a lot previously, and I don't think we need to rehash things. We're pretty aware of your concerns. So these are just concerns based on the new information. So are there any abutters that?
My
my input is, I believe the visual impact is done without this knowledge of the additional 10 or 12 feet, whatever it is. So we're not looking at the visual impact of what they're actually planning to do. You know, his idea was to make it lower so that they can raise it higher and it'll wind up where it is. But right now, it's the visual impact's done with an idea to how tall it was to be before we found out they have every right to make it 10% taller than that. So the visual impact's kind of void in that respect. And then my other concern or thing to say is that in the last meeting, we seem to have come up to the understanding that the threat of the federal mandates is empty because the onus on proving this is the only location would be on the company, and the company does not over prepare. They come unprepared every time. So the threat of a federal mandate, I think, is an empty threat. And those would be the only two things that I'd have left to say about it.
Anyone else?
On the visual impact, these visual impacts are only 5 months of the year. There's no foliage on those trees. I'm just saying that we have a full view of where the tower is gonna be without leaves, which is 6 to 7 months of the year, which is when people are normally outside their house and will be visually impacted.
Okay, we're gonna try to stick to this information though. Do we have anybody on Zoom, Steve?
We do have folks on Zoom. We'll stop the share. I don't know if anybody has any questions. We have 2.
If anybody, any residents have any comments on the new information that we've received from the applicant this meeting?
Are we still with the butters or other people?
Other people, I think we. Okay.
In reading over the new, the new information, quite often during your description of why certain plots of land were not viable for the project, the word redundancy, was used quite a few times. And you were saying that the redundancy is it covers areas that are already covered, and therefore it's redundant and therefore not viable. If I look at the original map that was presented a number of months ago, the proposed site, and about, from my view of the maps, about 30% of the area being covered by the proposed tower is already covered by the existing towers in the area. So there's quite a bit of area that is redundant. So I was wondering if that can be addressed. I hope I made myself clear.
That's in the original. Well,
There is,
I have it forward.
I think I can answer that question pretty easily.
Okay.
So,
24,
I mean, it's radio frequency, so there's always going to be some overlap. That's
the next one down is the one he's talking about. It has green on it too.
you know, the whole point of creating a network is to have some overlap. You want the least amount as possible to the extent you don't want to be wasteful. However, there always has to be some, so you look for the best possible way to do that. There is no way to, you know, control it and say, okay, this tower stops covering right here. Over coverage is not necessarily. It's just that you don't want to spend all of the resources that you do in constructing a tower to create a tower that provides largely duplicative coverage, but there's always going to be some.
I understand that. But if you look at the map that was provided the first time, most of the area to the west of Route 120 is already covered. And that's a significant amount of coverage that is being duplicated by the new tower.
But it's the highway corridors where the peak demand is,
But this is,
and that's
I
not
understand,
covered by the.
but then are you using, but you are using redundancy as a reason why the other towers are not.
If you go back to point
sites
two,
viable.
There was one that would be very close to the tower that I think is on top of Whaleback.
Yeah.
So it would, when we ran the test, it's largely providing not the same coverage. So let me break it down. There's 3 sectors on all of these. You know, each one covers a 120-degree area for a total of 360. And when we ran it, I believe one of the sectors was completely duplicated and useless. So you're basically getting 2/3 of what you should be getting out of the tower because one of those sectors is providing very little additional coverage.
Well, then why did you call that it was a prospective site? I mean, if you were gonna rule it out completely because it was majority already covered, why did you say it was a site? Or a good site,
No,
or a potential site?
so we evaluate them and determine which one is going to be the best.
I have a question for the board. If we get reduced 10 feet, approved for 120, there's a waiver, whatever, and we don't know what technology is going to be or how many carriers are gonna come in the future. But once you give approval for this tower, and there are new carriers that want to purchase room on a tower, and there is not room on the tower, giving approval for this tower, does that mean it's easier for them to build a second tower?
No, not another tower. According to state law, though, they can increase it by 10% without us having a say in it.
Okay, but does our approving of this tower, and they come back 2 years from now and say, we have many more carriers, we want to build a second tower. Does the fact that we're giving them approval make it easier for them to get approval to build a second tower at the site?
Totally independent.
Totally independent. Okay.
A precedent.
No,
If anything, it makes it harder.
is there anything else?
Yeah, I thought we talked about Stephen Cole's property last time. Not Bernie's.
I didn't hear.
I thought we talked about Stephen Cole's property, not Bernie's.
The coal property was discussed in the letter on the property on the west side of Route 120.
something.
Lebanon.
I've got to go
Yeah.
upstairs. I got to plug in. Not a
I
battery.
think I heard you refer to that, but
I don't think I called it the coal property. I'm not being a local. I don't know what else that,
that was the one with steep slopes and many wetlands that would have to be crossed.
is that in Plainfield or Lebanon?
Lebanon.
Okay. Let me see.
Was it the bottom of page 4 of your, or the page 4 of your letter?
Right, if they mentions gold.
I just, okay, I missed that. I don't understand though, the Methodist to steep slopes.
I'll stand for another half hour. So
Right. Hey, Suzanne, you're not muted, just so you're aware.
The, access
All
point
right.
for that goes into the patch property, that's pretty darn flat through there.
It's the building site you're talking about, not the access.
If you go, cause I snowmobile and spent my life here, I kinda know the topography. That's okay, I'm just saying. If we go off maps, things look really different.
Yeah, so that one was actually 5 different parcels.
Yep.
But again, all steep slopes. And all of the, the lower parts are all wet, so that's problematic for any sort of construction, not just wireless facilities.
How is that documented or quantified, or do you just say, well, we looked at it and we didn't like it?
No, the topographical maps are in my submission.
You've said steep slope a number of times. Is that in some way quantified, like so many feet of elevation per latitude or?
25%, although I don't know what the actual stretch is, like 25% over how long.
Okay.
That I don't know. I mean, that's the definition in Lebanon. And just generally steep slopes are problematic. So if we look at something and we see that it's extremely steep, you don't really have to measure it to know that's too steep to build in an economically viable way.
Right, we obviously have the document, and we referenced steep grade, and you look at the topographical lines, is it, boy, these lines are awfully close. There's too many of them within an inch of the, whatever your scale would be. That's not what I was wondering, it's like so many feet per distance.
So, that's put out by Lebanon, actually. They have deemed this unbuildable.
Okay.
So we didn't deem it, that's under their ordinance.
Okay.
But if you wanted to build there, could you apply for a variance or anything?
Variance, yeah,
You could,
absolutely.
if you wanted to
Yeah.
build there.
Oh, yeah. So the exercise is what's the most viable. I mean, there's all. Your imagination is the only thing that limits what can be done, but it's a matter of practicality.
Okay, do we have any more input from the public?
I have one comment, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna violate your rules about it being that related. But earlier it was said that the site that they've chosen has access, and it doesn't. Don still is not given permission to use his portion of that road, which when we discussed that a number of months ago, they were like, fine, we'll build a new road. And if they're gonna build a new road, that should be in their application. They got a schematic for the plot, all the fence lines, the little road that they're gonna build from what they thought they had access to. But they're gonna build an entirely new access road, that should be in their application.
So I can answer that, we didn't say we're building an entirely new access road. The idea is that the center line of that road is a demarcation point, and we need to widen the side that we have the right to do. It's not building a whole new road.
Okay, so then I'm sitting here looking at the map of Plainfield, and I'm happen to be sitting next to Grantham Mountain Road. What happens in a year or two when we have like a microburst up on the hill by the tower? And that road that they widened and extended washes all the way down to 120. And we get a Grantham Mountain washout. That affects Brian, that affects Don, that affects everybody carrying on that road. So I would like to see that in the proposal, and then I really suggest that a state engineer look at what they plan and make sure that we're not gonna get washed out like Grantham did.
We're not changing the topography.
You're removing,
You'd
you're
have to,
removing rock walls, you're
just pushing
removing
the rock walls.
vegetation. You're removing the vegetation, you're removing the rock wall, which currently impounds the flow down that
I
hill.
don't have any,
I don't think the zoning board has any jurisdiction over
jurisdiction.
that. It might be a planning board item of interest as to what's gonna happen with that, but
I assume the road agent has something to talk about in terms of roads.
we're just talking about whether the
Road agent,
use
right,
on that lot
New Hampshire?
is
It is, I
allowed.
think I think the fight will come with the access road is that it is entirely likely, I think, in old New Hampshire law, that the property, that lot for which the tower is proposed to be on, the owners of that property have some access to the old road. They just do, because you can't deny them that it's the only way to get to their lot.
But you can't substantially change the access. Having somebody drive a regular personal vehicle up that road, totally understandable. But we're talking construction vehicles that are gonna put up a tower. That's completely different.
Right, but I think to these guys' point, that becomes a building permit, planning board, site plan review, detailed issue. But it is, I think the lot will continue to have access to that road. Don Can may not like that, but I think it's going to be true.
No, not
because-
only that, you can put a driveway on your property,
Right.
period. I mean, you can build something on your own property and you access to that for building. And that's what they'll be doing. That's not our charge. I don't,
I think there are other boards that will look at that, but it's not you guys.
that's right.
Right.
I said it was done, but if there was one other thing, you mentioned something about taxes going up as carriers are added to the tower, which was something that I had never heard before. So in theory, like, as they build this tower and make money off of it, we have to pay for it to some extent too.
No, they pay more. In other words, the value of the tower set by town assessor is based on how many
When
carriers
you
are on.
talked about taxes, you meant
Their tax bill go, right, so we know because they have all complained that they don't have the carriers they originally got approved for. You know, so they filed abatements with the assessor and the assessor has reduced it because they used to have 4, now they got 2, those kind of things. I mean, these things pay, these are not money makers for the town, these things pay like a house. You know, they're $300,000-$400,000 are the assessments for most of these towers. Less than a house.
So are we ready to close the public hearing?
Thank you.
You guys are welcome to stick around and listen.
What are you gonna discuss, this?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's likely that a decision follows, so if you wanna
There'll be some,
see or hear the decision.
there'll be some decision made and you can hear the discussion.
But Steve will be happy to tell you what
Would be the
the
only
decision.
one.
Right, or you can watch it tomorrow on YouTube, I mean, it's. you know, it's-
Let's make the right decision.
We'll make the best we can.
I'm surprised they all left.
Yeah. World Cup match tonight, and
No, I think they're just generally disappointed that the local zoning ordinance doesn't have more teeth than it does. And, you know, we are fairly used to in Plainfield and every small town in New England being run over by the state and run over by the feds.
yeah,
That's what happens when you're downstream.
So do we need any more information, right? The last couple meetings, we've come up with more questions for the applicant and asked for the visual analysis, what about these other lots, so on and so forth. Does anybody here still feel like there's any question unanswered about alternate sites, about what's happening at this site? Anything like that? Cause I'm kind of feeling like I've had all my questions answered enough at this point.
yeah, I think we would be stretching to try to find more assignments for the applicant.
The one item that you see come up sometimes in the case law is effect on property values. But I
Mhm.
have not heard a lot about that either from the public or the applicant. And from what I've seen of the visual analysis and how not visible this tower seemed to me to be when we had the balloon test, and, you know, immediately in the vicinity, it was very hard to see the site. I'm skeptical that there would be any property value impact.
Okay, do we need, so. Do we all,
I would still like to have somewhere on our decision having them waive an extension, and if it needs to be litigated or rediscussed down the road, then we can rediscuss it, but and maybe it's something that can't be enforced, but it shows good faith, and I'd like to see it in there.
We could maybe. I don't know if it truly belongs in a decision, but request of the applicant that if they in the future plan on taking advantage of 12K or whatever that was, to change the height of the tower, request that they come back to the board for review and some public comment, but I don't think we can mandate it.
Well, okay.
I mean, we can encourage them, we can even, by putting it in a decision, at least that makes our feelings on it
I
clear.
guess I would be comfortable with that request, but I'd also like to have it reflected in the minutes that they essentially said that it wasn't something that they couldn't foresee a necessity of it. And that's what I think you said. You can't see, at this point, you can't see it, but you feel as though you'd like to continue to have it with the need to arise sometime down the road in a future we can't predict.
Yeah.
So I'd like to have the minutes reflect that's the intention and therefore the spirit of what the discussion.
True, and if they were really planning on doing it, they'd want to do it now and not
Yeah.
after the tower's built. So I mean, it's just not the approach that you would use if you're any kind of rational business.
Well,
I'll just say, I've been,
I would hope they wouldn't come up with the fourth tenant in 6 months before it's built.
I've been so focused on the alternative sites and making sure that we've done our legwork to confirm whether or not there are feasible alternatives or not, that I haven't given much thought to the height issue. I was not stressed out about 130 feet versus 120 feet. I don't know how big of a difference that makes from the distance that most people are gonna be seeing this. I don't know if I could estimate, right, eyeball, oh, that looks 10 feet or 12 feet taller than it was before. I don't know, it's not something I've given much thought to, so.
Well, and, I'm thinking about the community as well. I think that it shows that it's a spirit of compromise, a spirit of trying to get along, spirit of trying to listen to the neighbors, hearing the applicant, knowing that probably it's gonna be limited to 3 tenants at this point because of the current situation with the cell industry. But I'm okay with what they just suggested.
So my thought was tonight that if we got to the point where we don't have any more questions and we have all the factual information that we have, given that this is an unusual outside the box variance request, right? Because it doesn't satisfy the standard 674-33 variance criteria. It's instead this overlay of federal law and the preemption of the Federal Telecommunications Act. And then there's all this case law that we've seen from Barry, the attorney, and everyone else about how you go through the analysis, whether there's a gap in coverage, whether you need to find an effective that denying a tower in this place because it requires a variance would constitute an effective prohibition of coverage. And that gets into the feasibility of all the other sites, et cetera, et cetera. It's gonna be pretty fact intensive and there's a lot of confusing law aspects. So I was gonna propose if we did a straw poll tonight about how we're all feeling about up or down on approving the tower. If then the instruction to me, I would volunteer to draft a formal written decision for us to review and deliberate on at our next meeting, at our August meeting, I guess, so that then we would have the benefit of a pretty thoroughly drafted decision that you all could pick apart for all the detailed things that are gonna be very hard for us to think about on the fly tonight.
And that, I guess that's more efficient to do in a meeting rather than you circulate a draft and have it be.
I think it'd be wise.
Okay.
Cause then we can really discuss it.
Sure. I think it's phenomenal that you're volunteering to do that.
just thinking, thank God for Matt Hecker.
Exactly.
That's what I was thinking.
Well, in Massachusetts, they make me write the decision and then they take it and carve it up.
Is that what they do?
They don't wanna do that
That sounds
either.
great, yeah. I may reach
Don't
out,
get me wrong, I write myself good ones.
I may reach out to you for a template or starting point, yeah. But yeah, the applicant would have no objection to us taking another month to work on.
That's okay, just to be clear, so it's just for deliberation, we're not keeping the public meeting open?
Or reopening it.
Right,
Public
or
meeting,
reopen.
I
the
think
public
that's
hearing
right.
has been closed, you know, we can reopen it when if you were introduced a whole bunch of new information, then we'd probably reopen it. And give them a
We're not
chance to
asking-
To be
comment.
clear, what I'm asking for is can we do a SAR at the company?
Yeah.
That's what I'm
Just
asking.
in
Be
general,
on Zoom.
are we therefore closing the hearing from further information and input? And so we're not just in a deliberation mode on the decision?
Yeah, there isn't a specific.
And certainly
I
the
mean,
public can
the
sit
case
here
is
and
still
watch.
open, but the public hearing is closed.
That's what I'm
Right,
getting
yeah,
at. So there
right.
should not be any further information
Right, I
from
mean,
the applicant, because we're not asking anything further.
there could be, but we're not expecting it,
And-
and if there is, then we regress.
And at this point, we should not expect to need to hear additional commentary from the general public.
Right, as long as there's not new information, then we wouldn't reopen the public hearing.
But maybe they can come and listen.
Absolutely. And I would hope that they did.
I'm surprised that.
I would hope that they did. You gotta keep an eye on local government.
Okay, my only concern is whether we want a straw poll, or do we want a motion to have Matt write a motion?
I
My,
think the straw thing is the good idea.
yeah,
I think you don't need a motion to approve, because you haven't approved anything yet.
Right,
I just need sort of a general instruction. My feeling is that I'm not torn at all about the coverage gap. I think there's a clear gap in coverage along the Route 120 corridor. And, I think with the last of the information that we've gotten tonight about the alternative sites, we've sort of, done our due diligence now in terms of nailing down what there is and is not in terms of feasible alternatives. And I think but for the fact that this happens to be on the wrong side of the line on the zoning map, this does seem to be like a better site than any of the others, at least on the Plainfield side that we've looked at, that would be allowed by special exception. So if you.
And I don't know, do you need to say that the applicant agreed to reduce the height to 120 from the applications?
I'll include that.
Yep.
So it sounds like you would be
I'd be okay with that. yeah.
approval of the tower, given the reduction in height.
Given all the stuff that we've heard.
should we just run around and
Sure,
share
sorry.
opinions? I get to go last.
Well, subject to further deliberation, I'm not convinced that the standard for issuing a variance has been met. Subject to change, how does this decision actually look?
Yeah,
But my initial pass, variance is it's a pretty strong thing to do, it's the worst thing you can do to your zoning bylaws, really, and there's a number of items there that, variance must meet these things, I'm not necessarily convinced we've met them all.
it's rather interesting because.
And if the court overrules us, hey, go for it, that's the way it might go.
It seemed that the federal law referred to them as waivers and not variances. They were not respectful of the fact that we have a zoning ordinance.
I would also be very interested in, we have talked about the coverage gap a number of times. I myself would be really interested in how a court looked at the coverage gap that's been presented. And whether that met the standard, to override the local zoning rules in this case. Like, there is commentary around substantial gap, but there's no definition of substantial gap. You know, I mean, I drive up and down that stretch of road sometimes 3 times a day. I'm just one person, but I've never really thought about it too badly, because as soon as you crest the hill and come down into Meriden, you're gonna lose coverage anyway. We're not really solving the problem. In my opinion, that's where I sit today, subject to further deliberation, of course, but.
Mhm.
So I'm more in the, I don't know if we're ready, I don't know if think we've met the standard of a variance.
I do want to state for the record, and I'll put this in the written decision, but I want to get it into the record factually. That Steve was able to point me to is it the Upper Valley? The traffic studies, the regional planning
yes,
commission,
yes.
where they have the counters with the daily traffic averages going back and forth on Route 120 in that corridor, and I wrote it down, but it's in the thousands, right?
Yes, yes.
Thousands of trips a day going between East Plainfield and downtown Lebanon or Methodist Hill Road, or not Methodist Hill Road, whatever it is.
Croydon Turnpike?
No, the next
La
cut.
Plante.
Yeah,
by Walhagen Farm.
yeah.
LaPlante.
LaPlante, right,
LaPlante.
between East Plainfield and LaPlante, thousands of trips daily. My experience is when I'm driving home from work from downtown Lebanon, down 120, I do that trip twice a day. I put the Mets game on the radio and it cuts out right about before I get to the sawmill, and it doesn't pick up again until I get past Croydon Turnpike. Then I'm usually able to keep a signal down to KUA, but that's where the coverage.
Happened to Red Sox fans.
Yeah, I was gonna say, the problem is it's a Mets game.
Exactly.
If I could just use AM radio.
You know, I am just one person, that's where my current assessment lays, but subject to change, further deliberation, certainly be curious to rethink it with a, decision on paper to kind of evaluate. So take that for what you would.
Okay. And well, I'm assuming Matt supports it and Peter stayed.
I'm supporting it because of I mean, I would have a very difficult time with the variance if there weren't this federal thing hanging over us. And the visual analysis was something that was important to me, and the 10 feet reduction, I think, is a pretty big deal, in looking at the balloon thing. And for that reason, I would support it.
One of the things.
I wouldn't have supported 130 feet.
One of the things that I have been surprised in, not as a board member, but as your zoning administrator, is that the people who the balloon was the most visible to of anyone, right? I can hear the Croydon Turnpike folks. They have called to say, this is just part of our world now, cell towers, and we want better service on our routes.
That's why one of them really wants it.
Yeah, well, I mean, wants it. Yes. I
Yes,
mean,
that's right.
in other words, the fact that they, in the distance on the horizon,
Yeah.
might see a tower was not a factor for them, where I thought that task, we knocked on the door and said, hey, see that thing on the horizon over there? And they're like, yeah, does it help my phone work? I mean, it's a real shift, because when these started in the eighties, it was a bane on the scenic qualities of the town, and some are more visible than the others, but the public has shifted, not necessarily abutters who are more affected by it,
Sure.
but the public sees these devices as more important than the aesthetic loss of seeing something else. The fact that it doesn't have lights is very.
The lights are
Well,
important.
you have looked at the flashing tower on Colby Hill.
Finally, the trees have grown up a little bit. I
Have they
barely see it.
not seen, but I mean, anytime you go to French's ledges in the dusk this time of night.
What do you think, Dick?
I
Well,
think-
to your point, I myself am not bothered by what the federal statute says and what court precedents may say, because all these things are gonna be unique in their own way. And if there's a appeal to the court and they're successful, great, go ahead and build the thing. I'm more concerned about what we as a local community have established in our bylaws and maintaining that.
Well, that, I mean, I
And
totally,
that's where that's
I
why.
totally agree, but one of the things that I've. And we talked about this with regard to the waiver, and extent, you know, the person doing the waiver, is what are you likely what's likely to happen? And what's gonna be the town expense of going to court and all of that kind of thing, and I'm hearing that it's likely that they would win,
To me, that's a legitimate question.
it's worth the expense.
And, you know, the town may, this is all theoretical. The town may be presented with, hey, we're gonna go to court and talk about these specific things. And the town at that point, I say the town collectively, be the select board in this scenario, I assume.
Yeah.
They can collectively say, you know what? They can do their own assessment and say, let's just concede out of court and make this a nice, easy thing. And it doesn't have to be costly.
Yeah.
It could be, go on for years theoretically, I'm sure some of them have. But it doesn't necessarily have to, but that's not my assessment, that's not my role, like,
Sure.
if that's the way it goes, okay, but I did my due diligence as it relates to the development review board and zoning bylaws the community has enacted, which, you know, if a number of people in the community say, you know what, I don't like that, well, let's amend them. We can do that too, we do that occasionally, don't we?
We can do that.
So, you know, but based on what's on the paper today, you know, variance has a set of criteria and I'm just falling on the side of, I'm not sure, right now, I'm not sure the variance criteria have been sufficiently met.
Just one coda to that. Don't discount the possibility, and I don't know off the top of my head, but don't discount the possibility that the Telecommunications Act might have some fee shifting and attorney's fees provisions in there where if a
The what, I'm sorry,
Sure, I understand.
fee shifting, where if permission is denied on the basis of local regs and a tower company has to go to federal court to overcome that, then I think there are some fee shifting and cost provisions that
yeah, I mean, that's
Down on
not,
town,
that's not part of, it's not part of. Something we are required to take into consideration, but as a town board, I think it's something that is appropriate for us to think about.
Yes, I just don't see it in there, so while I can see the point, it's not necessarily impacting me. But I would say, hey, select board, when that time comes, that may be a very important factor in why you do some out of court situation, and it's just a few court filings to say, yep,
Right, although I think
we agree with the legal assessment.
in my experience, the select board has always felt that they defend the ZBA decision to the end.
Yeah.
Just because they don't wanna act as the ZBA, you know, if you guys deny it, I think the select board would buck up and support that decision. And it costs what it costs, and you know.
But this one might be a little bit different, and they could easily look at court precedent around Telecommunications Act and say, like, but again, that's theoretical in the future.
Right.
Most of the case law that I've read about cell towers is the judge reads the record. And even the last one that was, let me see, it was settled, it was initially ruled like last fall, but then in February, March, it was overruled, and the judge actually in the original ruling did a really nice job of going through in his decision and explaining all of his rationale and where he thought I don't know, weaknesses in
He made some technical decisions. Yeah.
it was quite good, and then the next judge just said, no. Let him build it. So. I think that this is a good approach, and I think Matt will do a job that we will be surprised with, in terms of its thoroughness. And, so I definitely support this approach, and it doesn't. I mean, the worst case scenario is that we waste some of Matt's time and maybe some of the applicant's time if we end up reading the motion and having a problem with it such that we can't pass it.
Right, and it is, you know, you will
But
see it
that's-
in advance, so you will not be able to discuss it in advance, but you'll have access to it in your next packet.
right, so I don't think we're risking much, and I think we're setting ourselves up for a much better decision if we do it this way, so.
What do you think?
Any objection from the applicant on that approach? I mean, we
No.
covered that a few minutes ago, didn't we?
No,
Cause as I'd like to, cause I, you know, as I said, you know, seeing it on paper. I may, you know, like I said, I'm leaning,
one
but
thing you guys are forgetting. If it goes to court, it's going at 1:30.
Right, so August,
cause that's what the application filed before, yes.
so our next meeting would be August 10th.
Yeah, I think I'm good then. I don't think I have any.
That water will
just
be
after
good, he's
that.
back. Vacation.
Yeah,
You can-
I'll let you know right away if I have a problem.
Steve, you can make Brad watch this video, right?
Oh, he will, required reading, or required watch.
Everybody say hi, Brad,
Yeah.
Hi, Brad.
in the future.
were here.
All right, so August, so is that your straw poll? Do we have the
Yeah, I think
information?
so. I think we're,
I've got the feel of the board.
yeah,
So shall we, somebody adjourn us until August 10th?
yeah, I think that'd be a good idea.
I'm not aware of any other cases that are in the works at this time of the, right now, so, you
How
know.
long does it take you to do this? No, I'm just,
It's gonna, I mean,
it's a big job. I really
yeah,
appreciate
there's a
it.
lot of, case law to read and get caught up on and Chris, the last cases you sent me were great, and then I was reading them and started thinking about, well, now the Chevron doctrine has been overturned, right? So,
Which one's that? I'm not familiar with that one.
well, no, you said the, cause you sent me the material inhibition standard promulgated by the FCC.
Yeah,
But the FCC is a federal agency, and now the Chevron doctrine.
I
In
don't
terms
know the
of,
Chevron.
the Chevron doctrine
I'm not as
is,
good a lawyer, so.
I know what it is.
it's
Apparently
the,
neither nor me.
it's the idea that, executive branch administrative agencies can put a gloss on a statutory provision.
Yeah,
So the FCC has put this material inhibition gloss on what the Telecommunications Act means.
Yeah.
From that 2023 case, but the Supreme Court case, I think, was Loper Bright, where the conservatives on the court were very eager to do away with administrative agency gloss and get back to, you can only do whatever the Congress has said you can do
yeah, but
in the statute.
so I haven't had to dive into this too deeply, but I think the rulemaking authority that was delegated to the FCC for the Telecommunications Act allows them to set the definition of what an effective prohibition is. The one that grew out of case law that we've been talking about, you know, the FCC, that's not applicable anymore. However, as you point out, no First Circuit Court has adopted that yet. Third Circuit did. So, you know, we will see if it ever gets to the First Circuit. You know, I don't know.
This would be a really fun conversation to have somewhere else. The Chevron decision's impact on the FCC rulemaking. That would,
Bottom line
get
is,
the vodka and let's have a good time with that conversation.
there's 25 years of law more of cell tower law. They've been around for 25 years. Cell phones.
Don't like.
And it's all kind of.
I'd like to make a motion to, what, do we defer, how do you say, it? Defer the meeting until August?
Continue.
We've continued the case.
Continue the meeting in August?
It's August 10th.
Yep.
I'll
Okay.
second that motion. to
All right, all those in
continue August
favor?
10th.
Okay,
I would also make a motion to adjourn the meeting for the night.
yep, that's supported.
Second that.
All those in favor?
Aye,
All right.
meeting adjourned. Sorry for my lateness.